She was crying in the guest bathroom. Not because of something I said. Not because we fought. She was crying because her ex hadn't texted her back. Let that sink in. I was standing in the hallway, holding her favorite hoodie, the one I'd just washed for her, and I heard the sob. Not loud. Not fake. The kind of cry you try to muffle in a towel. She thought I was asleep. But I wasn't. I had been wide awake for weeks. I didn't go in. I didn't knock. I just stood there, hoodie in hand, listening to the woman I loved cry over a man she swore was just an old chapter. She used to hide it better. At least I think she tried. Maybe she got lazy because I didn't fight back. I just took it. Let her reconnect with old friends. Let her stay out late for networking dinners. Let her keep a second phone because my work apps keep crashing. Lie after lie after lie. And I kept folding her laundry like a fool. Until the guest bathroom broke me. I left the hoodie on the stairs and went to the kitchen. Poured orange juice I didn't want. Stared at the wall. My brain was screaming, but my face didn't move. She came out an hour later. Eyes red. Hoodie gone. Didn't say a word. Just walked past me like I was a roommate. I said, "You good?" She said, "Yeah, just tired." I nodded. Then she said something that burned through my chest. "Caleb used to hold me when I cried. You don't even ask." And I laughed. It wasn't even a real laugh. Just a noise that came out of me because anything else would have shattered the glass in the windows. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "If Caleb made you feel so alive, maybe you should go be his problem again." She didn't speak. Just stared at me like I'd unplugged her. She left 20 minutes later. Took her car keys and perfume. No goodbye. No dramatic storm out. Just gone. And I thought that was it. But exactly 4 hours later, she started calling. And calling. And calling. 23 missed calls. And then a voicemail I'll never forget. Because what she saw at Caleb's place. It changed everything. I didn't answer the first 20 calls. I couldn't. I just watched the screen light up over and over. Her name flashing like a bad habit I couldn't quit. At some point, I turned off the ringer and placed the phone face down. My hands were shaking too hard to scroll. But then, the voicemail came through. 1 minute, 42 seconds. Her voice was hoarse, panicked. Not the confident, cold version of her I'd been living with the past few months. No, this was someone else entirely. And it scared me. She started with my name. Twice. Curtis. Curtis. Then silence, like she was deciding whether to hang up. She didn't. What she said next felt like a punch to the spine. "He's not who I remembered. I thought it would be different. I thought it would be like it used to be. But he wasn't alone." My stomach twisted. Not out of jealousy. No, something darker. I knew Emery. She wasn't the type to get spooked easily. Whatever she saw, it had rattled her. "I don't think I should have come here," she whispered. "He's changed. He kept asking me to go upstairs, said he had something to show me. But it felt off. Like he was playing a role." Then I heard a door creak open in the background. She gasped. Whispered, "He's coming. I have to go." Click. That was it. I sat frozen, the phone still pressed to my ear long after the message ended. My first instinct was to call her back. But I didn't. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't my emergency to fix anymore. She'd made her choice. She'd chased her aliveness, whatever that meant. And now she was seeing what that actually looked like outside of her fantasies. Still, I couldn't shake it. I knew this Caleb guy. Not well, but enough. He'd cheated on her 3 times that I knew of back when they dated. He was charming, yes, the kind of guy who could sell a dream with a smile. But there was always something behind his eyes that felt hungry. And now she was at his house. Alone. At night. With that voice. That panic. It wasn't about jealousy anymore. It was about safety. So I did something I never imagined I'd do after everything she'd put me through. I got in the car. No jacket. No wallet. Just grabbed the keys and drove. Halfway there, she texted me, "Don't come." Then another. I handled it. Then radio silence. And when I arrived at Caleb Street, I saw her car already parked outside my apartment. She had beaten me back home. And the look on her face when I walked in, that was the moment I realized. She wasn't afraid of him. She was afraid of what she brought back with her. She didn't knock when she came back. She had her own keys, of course, but the way she let herself in, silent, like a shadow, was wrong. Like she didn't want to be seen. I stood in the doorway as she passed me, not saying a word, just holding her phone in one hand and a plastic grocery bag in the other. No makeup. Hair pulled back. Barefoot. Her eyes were bloodshot, but not from crying, from not sleeping. That's when I noticed something odd. The bag she was carrying wasn't from any store near Caleb's place. It was from a gas station 3 blocks from here. She'd already been back a while. "Where did you go?" I asked, but it came out weaker than I meant. Like a whimper. Pathetic. She stopped in the middle of the hallway. Didn't turn around. Didn't even shrug. "I needed to breathe," she muttered. "Did you see him?" She nodded, still facing away. "It was a mistake." That's it. Just those 4 words, like they were supposed to patch over everything. But something was off. She wasn't shaken anymore. She was watching me, studying me, like I was the one who had done something wrong. I noticed she didn't go to the bedroom. She went straight to the kitchen, poured herself a glass of water with trembling hands, then leaned against the fridge as if waiting for a verdict. And I gave her one. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet, tired question. "What happened at his place?" That's when she finally looked at me. And I swear, for half a second, I saw fear flash in her expression. But it wasn't fear of him. It was fear of me asking the right questions. She said, "He wasn't alone." I didn't expect that. I thought it'd just be us, talk things out, get closure. I asked who else was there. She didn't answer. I asked again. "He had people over," she finally said. "Friends." I didn't know any of them. It got weird. Weird how? She paused, took a long drink of water. "He started showing me photos. Of me. Old ones. From years ago. Stuff I never even sent him. Like he'd kept everything." My skin crawled. "What kind of photos?" She stared at the sink. "From when we first dated. Stuff I'd forgotten. Nothing bad, just obsessive. He said he always knew I'd come back. That it was only a matter of time." I felt sick. Not just from the jealousy, but from the look on her face. She wasn't telling me everything. There was a layer beneath what she was saying, something she didn't want to admit out loud. I asked her if he touched her. She snapped, "No. Of course not." I left. But her voice cracked. I didn't press. I wanted to, but I didn't. She went to the guest room that night. Locked the door. I stayed up on the couch, scrolling through old texts between us, trying to find the moment we broke. But I realized something around 3 a.m. It wasn't just about Caleb. Something happened at his place that had nothing to do with romance. And when I went to check the guest room the next morning, she was gone again. Only this time, she didn't take her car. And the voicemail I got an hour later? It didn't sound like she was running away. It sounded like she was being followed. The voicemail came in just after 9:40 a.m. I was still pacing in the kitchen, sipping cold coffee, trying to make sense of her disappearing without the car. I thought maybe she'd just walk somewhere nearby, maybe to clear her head. But deep down, I knew better. She never just walked. She was the kind of person who called an Uber to go 3 blocks if it was cloudy. So when my phone buzzed with that missed call and voicemail notification, I felt my lungs tighten before I even pressed play. Her voice came through immediately, low, breathless, shaky. "Curtis, I need you to listen. I know I messed up. I know you hate me right now, but something's wrong. I think someone followed me. I don't know who. Maybe one of Caleb's friends. They were acting weird last night, saying things that didn't make sense. I think they're watching me." My chest went cold. This wasn't just cheating fallout anymore. Something had shifted. She sounded like someone running from a nightmare she didn't understand. Then she said something that knocked every other thought out of my brain. "He had photos of us, Curtis. Not just me. You too. From this year. From our anniversary dinner. From outside this house." I nearly dropped my phone. That wasn't possible. We hadn't seen Caleb in over 5 years. How could he have pictures of both of us from last month? The message continued, more frantic now. "I didn't tell you everything last night. I didn't know how. One of the guys, I think his name was Vince, he said Caleb never stopped watching me. He said Caleb had been following our life ever since I got married. That he had a plan." My hands were sweating. My legs suddenly felt hollow, like I couldn't trust the floor under me. She was still talking, but the words started to blur. "I'm sorry," she said at the end. "I shouldn't have gone there. I thought it was about closure. I didn't know he was obsessed. I didn't know it was this deep. Curtis, please, don't open the door if someone knocks." Click. That was it. I just stood there, clutching the phone, every nerve in my body buzzing like static. Not out of fear, not yet, but out of disbelief. I kept telling myself this had to be a mistake. Maybe she was overreacting. Maybe she was just guilty, trying to stir sympathy. But there was something in her voice. A crack I'd never heard before. And that part about the photos? I couldn't shake that. So I checked the hallway camera I'd installed months ago. The one she always complained was paranoid. I hadn't looked at the footage in weeks. When I opened the app and started scrubbing through the overnight feed, I wasn't expecting anything. But at 2:14 a.m., there he was. A man standing at the end of our driveway. Motionless. Staring at our front door. He didn't move. Not for 37 minutes. Then he turned and walked out of frame. I zoomed in, paused it, stared hard at the screen. It wasn't Caleb. It was someone I'd never seen before. But he was holding something in his hand. A phone. And on its screen was a photo of me. I couldn't breathe. I stared at the frozen camera footage on my phone. The grainy, night vision image of a man I didn't know, standing 30 feet from my door, just watching. He wasn't trying to break in. He wasn't creeping through bushes. He was standing in plain sight, like he wanted to be seen. And the fact that he was holding up a phone with my face on the screen, like some twisted mirror, made every inch of my skin crawl. I rewatched the clip 5 times. Tried to convince myself it was a trick of the light. Maybe he was looking at his phone. Maybe the screen was reflecting something else. But it wasn't. I could see it clearly now. My face. From the side. The same shirt I wore at dinner 2 weeks ago when Emery said she was working late. I didn't even know what to do with that. I called her. Straight to voicemail. I texted. No response. I thought about calling the police, but what would I even say? My cheating wife might have gotten involved with someone who's taking pictures of me in the dark? That sounded insane. And worse, it sounded pitiful. Like I couldn't even keep my own home safe. So I did what every dumb, desperate man does when he's been emotionally gutted and still thinks he can fix it all with logic. I got in my car and drove straight to Caleb's place. I didn't have a plan. I just needed to see it for myself. Maybe catch him outside. Maybe find evidence that this whole nightmare had a name and a face I could confront. But when I pulled up, something was off. His car was there. Lights were on. But the front door was wide open. Not cracked, wide. I parked 2 houses down and approached slowly, heart thudding. I called out once. No answer. Stepped inside. The living room was trashed, not ransacked, but scattered, like someone had packed in a hurry or flipped through drawers looking for something specific. There were photos everywhere. Not in frames, printed ones. Dozens. Hundreds maybe. Piles on the floor. And in the center of the room was something that made my knees buckle. A corkboard. One of those tall, standing ones like detectives use in TV shows. And on it, pinned in neat rows, were printed screenshots. Me and Emery. At the grocery store. In our backyard. At the movies. Inside our house. The angles didn't make sense. These weren't from phones. They looked elevated. As if taken from vents. Or through cracks in doors. I staggered backward, almost tripping over a knocked-over lamp. Then I heard it. A noise upstairs. Not footsteps. A shuffle. Like someone moving slowly, trying not to be heard. I didn't wait to find out who it was. I bolted. I don't even remember getting back in the car. My fingers were shaking too hard to start the engine at first. But when I finally pulled away, I didn't go home. I didn't feel safe there anymore. I drove to a 24-hour diner and sat in a corner booth, staring at the salt shaker for 40 minutes. Then my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. One photo. Emery. Asleep. In my bed. Taken from inside our bedroom. With a timestamp from 5 minutes ago. I stared at the photo for what felt like an hour, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. Emery was curled up on her side, her head half buried in the pillow, one leg out from under the blanket. The same exact way she used to sleep when we were still happy. That crushed me almost as much as the angle of the shot. It had been taken from inside our bedroom, right near the closet. The closet door wasn't even visible in the photo. That meant whoever took it was already inside. Watching. I tried calling again. No answer. I texted, "Get out of the house now. Don't ask. Just go." No read receipt. I left my half-drunk coffee, barely remembered to pay, and flew out the door. I drove like my car was on fire, blowing through red lights and barely registering the screams of the GPS rerouting me. The entire drive, my mind was sprinting in circles. Who took that photo? Why? What did they want? And the worst thought, was she still in the house with them? When I pulled onto our street, my headlights hit something that stopped me cold. The front door. Wide open. Again. Just like Caleb's. I left the car running and sprinted to the porch. The air felt off. Still. Heavy. Too quiet. Like the neighborhood was holding its breath. I stepped inside slowly, heart hammering. The house was dark. No lights on. but the hallway night light glowed faintly. I called her name. Nothing. I called again, louder. Then louder still. Emery. No answer. I checked the bedroom. The sheets were crumpled like someone had just gotten up. Her phone was still on the nightstand. Her shoes by the bed. But she wasn't there. The bathroom door was half open. Empty. Living room, empty. Kitchen, untouched. I was about to call the police when I saw something that made the blood drain from my face. The back door was unlocked. But that wasn't the worst part. Wedged in the doorframe was a torn scrap of paper. My name was written on it. My full name, not just Curtis. That alone was strange. She never used my full name unless she was mad. But it wasn't her handwriting. I unfolded the note. You don't know who she really is. That's all it said. No punctuation. No explanation. Just that single sentence, scrawled in what looked like shaky, uneven ink. I stood there frozen, my mind racing in 100 directions. This didn't feel like a warning. It felt like a challenge. Like someone wanted me to unravel something I hadn't even thought to question yet. I'd been so focused on her cheating, so consumed by the humiliation and betrayal, that it hadn't occurred to me. Maybe I didn't know who she was at all. I sat down at the kitchen table, the note still in my hand, and pulled up her laptop. She'd logged out, of course. But her old work email, the one she hadn't used in over a year, was still stored in the autofill. I clicked through. Most of it was boring, clients, invoices, graphic drafts. Until I found a folder buried under a stack of invoices labeled Archive, Private, Password Protected. I tried her birthday. Denied. Our anniversary. Denied. Her mother's name. Denied. Then I tried Caleb's name. Access granted. Inside the folder were dozens of audio files, labeled by date. And the most recent one? Yesterday. I clicked play, and the first thing I heard wasn't her voice. It was mine. Hearing my own voice in that audio file nearly made me drop the laptop. It wasn't a voicemail, it wasn't a video, it was a clear recording of me, talking on the phone. From our living room. I recognized the words instantly. It was a conversation I'd had with my brother a few weeks ago, when I thought Emery had gone out for groceries. I remember pacing near the window, venting about her being distant, saying I was worried she was cheating. But the recording picked up everything. Every word. Even the parts where I said I didn't know if I still loved her. Why the hell was she recording me? I sat there stunned, my mouth dry, listening to myself talk about my own marriage like it was some problem I couldn't fix, and realizing she had been documenting me behind my back. This wasn't a one-time thing either. I opened more files. I heard myself in the shower, on work calls, muttering to myself in the garage. She had bugged the house. I just didn't know where. Or why. But then I found one labeled Caleb call _extracted. I clicked it. That's when the lies truly fell apart. It wasn't a romantic call. Not even close. It was tense, coded, and sounded rehearsed. Emery's voice was tight. She said things like, he's getting suspicious, and I planted it where you said, but he hasn't found it yet. Caleb's voice came through, low and clipped. Stick to the plan. He needs to believe he found it himself. I froze. They weren't just talking. They were collaborating. Setting something up. Planning something around me. My head was spinning. Every assumption I'd made. That she cheated because she missed the thrill. That Caleb was just an old flame who couldn't let go. None of that explained what I just heard. This was deeper. Colder. Calculated. I started retracing everything. The crying in the bathroom. The weird voicemail. The photo from inside the house. Even the man outside the door. Was that supposed to scare me? Was it staged? Suddenly, none of it felt accidental. My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. This time, just a message. You've been very good at following the breadcrumbs. Let's see what you do next. Attached was a GPS pin. A single location about 15 minutes away. An abandoned storage facility off Route 14. I didn't know what I was walking into. I didn't know who sent it. But I was done playing defense. I screen recorded everything, backed up the audio, sent the files to my brother, and grabbed the one thing left in the house that gave me even a shred of control. The tiny key Emery once told me never to touch. She kept it hidden in her jewelry box and said it was for a safety deposit box she forgot to close years ago. I knew now that was a lie too. I pocketed it and headed out. And as I drove toward the pin, my phone buzzed one last time before I arrived. This time it was Emery. The message read, Curtis, please don't go there. It's not what you think. I wasn't supposed to care, but now I do. Just stop. She wasn't warning me. She was afraid of what I might find. The storage facility was exactly what you'd expect: cold, echoing, and forgotten by time. Rusted fences, one flickering floodlight, and rows of metal doors that all looked the same. But the GPS pin led me to Unit 119, tucked way in the back. The padlock had already been removed. My fingers trembled as I gripped the latch, unsure if I was opening a door or a trap. I hesitated, one last breath, and pulled it open. Inside wasn't darkness. Inside was evidence. Folders, receipts, hard drives, even printed out bank statements, all neatly stacked on a folding table under a single dangling light. And in the middle of it all, Emery. She was sitting in a metal chair, alone, looking more like the version of herself I first fell for than I'd seen in years. She didn't look afraid. She looked guilty. "I was supposed to ruin you," she said, her voice soft. "This was never about Caleb. It was never even about cheating. I was part of something bigger. A setup, and you weren't the only one." She slid one of the folders across the table toward me. Inside were contracts, signed by Caleb and two other names I didn't recognize. The goal? Frame me for financial misconduct at the HVAC company where I'd just been promoted. Make me look unstable. Discredit me. Destroy my name before I ever figured out what was happening. "I took the deal when I thought you didn't care anymore," she continued, tears in her eyes. "I was angry, lost, and Caleb promised it'd be clean, that you'd just get suspended, maybe fired, but nothing permanent. He lied." I couldn't believe what I was hearing, but the paperwork made it real. There were even audio transcripts of calls between Caleb and one of the partners at my firm. This was deep. "I didn't expect to feel anything again," she whispered. "But when you didn't come after me, when you just let me go, it messed with my head. And then I saw that guy watching the house. I realized Caleb wasn't just targeting your job. He wanted to unmake you." "So you flipped?" I asked, still not trusting a single part of this. She nodded. "The recordings, the notes, the emails, I copied everything. I sent a full report to your brother. And to a lawyer." I didn't speak. I didn't hug her. I just sat down in the other chair and stared at the mess we'd made. The silence between us wasn't bitter anymore. It was heavy, like two people realizing they nearly lost everything, including themselves. In the weeks that followed, everything unraveled fast. The company launched an internal investigation. Caleb was arrested for fraud and conspiracy. Two executives resigned under pressure. My job? Safe. My name? Cleared. Apparently, I wasn't the only one he'd tried to destroy. As for Emery, she didn't beg. She didn't make grand promises. She just moved into a small apartment a few miles away, started therapy, and asked if I ever wanted to meet for coffee. No pressure. No illusions. One morning, I said yes. Not because I'd forgiven her. Not because I forgot. But because she chose to save me instead of finishing the plan. That had to count for something. So here I am now, writing this not as a warning, but as a weird kind of thank you to the chaos that forced us to wake up. Maybe we won't end up together. Maybe we will. But one thing's certain. I know who I am now. And for the first time in a long time, I finally feel alive.